The main causes of stress, as expressed by dementia residents living in dementia units, is not being able to get out, not being able to get home, not being able to see their sons and daughters, and not being able to phone out to family. These are the four main reasons that they express the biggest stress for being in dementia units. And these can be mitigated. If the person is taken out for walks daily, they get regular visits, they go out on trips, their room's set up like home, they get regular phone calls, say at 6 o'clock at night, and if the son and daughter reminds them that indeed they are visiting and put it up on the whiteboard, all of these aspects mitigate the stress. But eventually the dementia resident, needs to accept that indeed they are living in a dementia unit. Difficult as it is, this is their home now. So all of this work that's being done by staff and relatives and friends and family to mitigate the stress for the dementia resident ultimately has to come down to the point of the person being able to manage their own life and live in a dementia unit. And it does happen when a dementia resident accepts that they are living there. They need to come to that state of acceptance. Now, initially, of course, when they come into the dementia unit, there's a lot of anxiety. Practically everybody feels anxiety coming into a dementia facility. And often there can be anger as well. And then after that, depression, if they experience only loss and no gains. But if gains can be accrued along the way, that goes a long way to a person being able to accept living in a dementia unit. So the gains, really it's good to start with the room, the bedroom, because that's their focal point of their life, their bedroom. So if that's made as comfortable, as warm, as homely as possible, so it's like their little home. They've got memories there, they've got beautiful big pictures there that remind them of home, all the pictures of the family, their names underneath, a warm, comfortable bed and chair. If all that's set up like their own little home, and with that, warm, regular, loving visits from friends and family, and then with that, being able to get out for regular walks and have regular visits and trips out to favourite places like the park and the beach, etc. And also with the opportunity to be able to make regular phone calls, or better still, for the family member to call in once a day at a set time, so that phone stress and trying to get a phone call out is eliminated. So assuming all these supports are put in place and the family is supporting well and mitigating these stresses for the dementia resident and doing their best to do that, then it comes to the point where the dementia resident themselves needs to work on accepting that they're living there. Now, it's a lot more difficult for some dementia residents than others to be able to accept that they're living there. If you're an elderly woman in your 80s or 90s and you've been living an institutionalized life in a nursing home for the last 5-8 years, it won't have near the same effect living in a dementia unit as if you're a younger man in late 60s, 70s, and you've come from your own home straight to the dementia unit. That's drastically different. And because of that chasm of change, they need so much more support really to be able to manage and accept the situation. And if they do manage to get through that and accept the fact that they're living there, it's all credit to them really, because even with all support on their side and a very supportive family, it's still extremely difficult to be able to accept living in a dementia unit. But some residents do. I've seen remarkable cases of this, remarkable cases. It's much more difficult for the younger men, say early 70s being younger for a dementia facility. The average age in a dementia unit is 83. So early 70s is considered young. There was this one man that came in, and he was in his early 70s, fit, strong, capable, healthy, and very poor memory, some confusion occasionally. And he found it so difficult to accept living in the facility. He had good support from his family. They visited, they took him for walks, they took him out for trips. His room was set up beautifully, but still, he was so stressed and so depressed. And in the end, it was actually because he found a purpose for himself at the unit that turned the tables for him, that enabled him to come to the point of being able to accept being there. He'd always been a very community-minded man and had always helped the vulnerable and people that were sick and unwell and needed help. And in the facility, when he started to turn around things, rather than focusing on himself, he started to sit with the elderly women who were sick and unwell in the recliner chairs, and he'd sit with them for hours, either just sitting there, maybe holding their hand, the odd comforting word, giving them company for those elderly women who didn't have friends and family visiting them when they were unwell. And the staff used to bring the unwell residents to him and ask if he would sit with them to give them company. He was remarkable at that. And from that point, he developed a purpose. All his care, compassion, and kindness, all those strengths developed, and he became very appreciated in the unit, not just by the women that were sick, but by the other women seeing him do this caring activity, giving solace to these women. They garnered a lot of respect and appreciation for him. And so he made friends as a result of that. And he found his place. He accepted that he was there. His family still came and visited, but he wasn't as desperate in terms of wanting to see them. He'd accepted where he was, and he was able to include the dementia unit in his life. It is their life. The dementia unit becomes the life of the resident, and they need at some point to be able to accept that. Otherwise, it's so stressful, they will just end up often at the door, often with their belongings, wanting to get out, calling to get out, waiting for the next visitor to arrive so that they can escape, not realizing or recognizing that where are they going to escape to, and indeed have they got the direction orientation to get there. So it's a very stressful, sad situation, and it's much better if the person can accept the situation, befriend other people within the unit, develop a purpose maybe, as this man did, turn the tables around, and then once one accepts that they're at the unit, then of course the stress will drop away, and then the person can start to have a quality of life. They can garner a new way of thinking, they can start to communicate, build back their confidence, and be part of the community. And this can and does happen. But firstly, the stresses have to be mitigated as much as possible by outside parties. And then after that, the person has to work on themselves and get to the point of being able to manage the situation of living in a dementia unit, and finally arriving at acceptance of the fact that indeed they are living there. So I've written these two books, The Resident's Voice and The Resident's Rise, both from a dementia unit, both on Amazon with hard copy, soft copy, and the popular ebook, and on my website, www.pietervalentine.com. So they're easy to read in the sense that they're clear and concise with all these topics, both the theory and the practical. So if you are a reader, it is a good idea to get these books and handbag size, take them to the unit and use them as diaries. You can just write in them all your notes and dated notes for doctors' meetings and relatives' updates, etc. So thank you for your looks and your likes, and for subscribing. Please pass on these links, and please subscribe if you find these videos helpful. Thank you.